Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are at in the world. Hi, it's Dave with Kairos Management Solutions. And this next week, I have got to do a presentation, a couple of workshops on this very topic, the fundamentals of time management. So I thought I would go ahead and take the opportunity to review it and maybe practice with all of you. So hopefully you can indulge me in this a little bit. And as I work through the aspects of what it takes to have solid fundamentals of time management. One of the things I wanted to do, though, also is offer the opportunity for anyone who's listening or listens to this afterwards that one of the resources we offer at Kairos Management Solutions is actually the time management analysis. This is the basis in the beginning for us that lets and helps us be able to see where people have the opportunities to improve their time management. And so I want to offer the full report to you for free. So all you have to do is in the meeting invitations, or the event invitations, you'll find a link to the website, which will take you to the time management analysis page. Once you click on and take the assessment, at the very end, it asks you for a promo code. All you have to simply do is type in promo code LinkedIn, and you'll be able to get the full report for free. If you forget to type in LinkedIn in the promo code, you'll still get a report. You'll get the summary report, which is a 3 or 4 page summary of where you're at. But if you type in and put in LinkedIn, you're going to get the full 12-page report that gives you all of the recommendations associated with that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about the fundamentals of time management. And let me go ahead and walk you through what we hope to try to accomplish in our session together. First one I'm going to define is time management. Then we're going to go through the 5 areas, fundamentals, or categories that sets the foundation for good time management. And then we'll go into each one of those in detail. And that's proper planning, task management, focus, organization, personal care. And we'll wrap it up. I'll give you a little bit more details about the time management analysis report and give you the opportunity to go ahead and answer or ask any questions that you would like to do at this point. So that's what I hope to accomplish today. And so let's go ahead and first take a look at and decide, what is time management? What's the definition? You can go online, there are so many great books on time management, and you'll see that there's a variety of different definitions for it. What we try to do from our end and our approach with Kairos Management Solutions is to talk about time management in a very precise way. And it's simply this: it is about the right planning with the right process to control your productivity. So if there's anything I'm going to ask you to take away from what you've listened to today, is that it's planning, process, and control. Those 3 words. Your time management must start with planning. Then you have to execute it through the processes that you talk about. And then you control. You must, as much as possible, control the execution of that. And these 3 elements work together. And you can switch back and forth between the 3 as you manage your time and try to be effective in your time management. So again, the 3 areas, 3 words to remember coming out of this is: you own the planning, you own the process, which leads to you controlling your time management. So let's take a look at the 5 areas of time management. The either you can call them priority categories or areas but there's 5 that you need to be focused on, with focus being one of them, but 5 areas you need to pay attention to help optimize your time management. Hey, good evening. Appreciate you joining from Malaysia. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you so much for joining. So the 5 areas are planning, task management, focus, organization, and personal care. We're going to get into each one of those. But when you tie back to the planning, process, and control, obviously the planning aspect is aligns with planning. Task management is more of a process and control element. So you use a process in your task management and you control that process through your ability to complete those tasks. And then function or focus is all about control. It's your control in managing your time. It's your ability to be proactive and not reactive. Then there's organization, and there is planning and process in those particular areas. And so you want to focus in those 2 elements. And then personal care, which is really about taking care of yourself both mentally and physically. That's about process and control. So those are the 5 areas that you need to put your attention on: planning, task management, focus, organization, and personal care, in and amongst the 3 elements of planning, process, and control. So we're going to start with planning first, but I just want to say thank you to those of you who are joining us from really all across the world. I really appreciate that. So thank you. I hope to have a great time myself. Thank you so much for everyone for joining. So let's go ahead and dive into the first of the 5 priority categories or areas, and that is planning. And planning, there are 5 elements to this, kind of a combination of 2. But planning, the first one is setting personal goals. And let me talk a little bit about what I mean by personal goals, because it's actually a broad term. Personal goals are both professional and personal, set up in such a way that it moves your time management forward. So let's talk a second about a personal aspect of personal goals. Let's say you want to set a goal of running a marathon. That is just not something you wake up one day and say, I'm going to run 26.2 miles, however much a marathon is. There's a lot of training, time management, allocation, and work that has to go in to achieve that personal goal of running a marathon. On the flip side, let's say you have a goal of, on the professional side, is I want to be promoted in 3 years to director. You have to set up a series of tasks and projects on the professional side in order to meet that goal of being promoted. One involves professional, the other involves personal, but they're tied directly to you as an individual. So this concept of setting personal goals can involve a variety of aspects of your life, but it's what's important to you. And so many people don't set up personal goals. They really only follow the professional goals set up by their employer. So invest time doing this, because it helps you put the focus in the right areas of time management in your life. The second element is planning ahead. And of course, we're under planning and we're planning ahead. So when you plan ahead, this is about being future minded. So many folks that I talk with and I work with today are very present minded. Their time management only seems to focus on the present aspects of their life. And that's great. It's very important. It needs to be. But what that means is, as I mentioned before, you can become very reactive in your approach to time management. Planning ahead allows you to be proactive. And so, really, the idea of planning ahead is to look at the past to see how well you did in the past. It's also to look at the present to see what you're doing in the present, but it's a element of saying what's going to happen and trying to predict what you're going to do in the future. And it all, again, ties around planning, process, and control. The planning ahead allows you to set up a process to which you can be in control of more events that might happen in the future. So very, very important element to it. So next after planning is really two elements combined into one: meeting preparation, or meeting preparation, and then meeting participation. These are very, very important because I don't care what job you have or what you do, you have an element of being in a meeting. At some point, you're going to be dragged into it, whether it's personal or professional. You're going to have to participate in a meeting. The idea behind this concept is you invest time to prep for the meeting, whether you lead or not. Obviously, if you're going to lead a meeting, boy, you better do some preparation in order to be able to successfully facilitate that meeting or presentation. But also, if you're a participant, if someone sends you information to be a part of that meeting, honor that and review it so you're ready to be engaged. And participation is critical. I don't know how many meetings you've been in, but I've been in dozens and dozens of meetings where people just don't participate. In the room, there's no give and take back and forth. And so it's important for you and your time to make the most of that meeting is to participate. So between preparation and participation, you probably will alleviate the need for future meetings if you don't accomplish what you need to accomplish. So again, through the planning, plan ahead of time for the meeting, through the process, be prepared for the meeting, and through your participation, help control the aspects and the elements of the meeting so you get the most out of that time that you have to invest in that. So planning, meeting preparation and participation, really good opportunities for you to maximize your time benefit. The last element in the planning phase is to complete assignments. Now, complete assignments has somewhat of an external element to it. And what I mean by that is most of the times when either you're given an assignment, whether you give yourself an assignment or someone else gives you an assignment, there's an external element to that in that you have to complete something for someone else or something else. So the important aspect is that you dedicate your time to complete those assignments. Because if you don't, you probably will negatively affect someone else and even you. And so through, again, the effective planning you do on how to complete that assignment, the process you take to do that assignment, and then the element of how you control what you do to get that assignment done, all adds to a positive fundamental aspect of your time management. So, in essence, in the planning area, you need to, again, work at the definition of time management. There's a planning process and control element of all of these. Setting your personal goals. Can't emphasize that enough. Invest time to do that. It so helps the direction of your life. Have an attitude of planning ahead. Make sure in meetings you're both prepared and ready to participate, and that you're completing assignments on time, all wrapped around proper planning process and control of all those particular areas. Again, thank you to those of you who are joining Ria or Raya. I hope I said that right. Thank you so much. South Africa. Ooh, excellent. This is an honor and a privilege. I appreciate that. Hopefully so far you're getting something from this on the fundamentals. So the next section we want to move from planning is we want to talk about tasks. And tasks can be very tactical, but they can so get away from people from either having too many tasks, not enough tasks, or doing their tasks correctly. So the first element of task management, and I know this might seem really, really obvious, however, it's maintaining a list. But it's a system of a list. This is where the planning element of maintaining the list comes in, is that you actually have a plan to do that. I know people who manage lists in a variety of different places. They have a work list that maybe they do on their work calendar. They got a home list that's on a series of Post-it notes. They have another list that might be involved on a separate calendar that they do. Your process needs to be consistent. And for me, my ask of you is have one list that you manage from. Don't manage from a variety of lists. Whether that list is like the image shows, you're writing it down, or you're using a task system that's tied to a calendar or a piece of software that you do use, have it in one location. And if you use a company task system, ask permission from your company if you can put your personal tasks in there as well, so it's easy to manage. I want to note that if you choose to use employer-based software, always ask for their permission if you're going to have a personal element related to that. But maintaining a task list is really, really important. The next avenue that you want to look at is prioritizing that list. And this, I have to say, is the biggest challenge under task management for people. So what do I mean by prioritization? Well, by prioritizing your tasks, you're not treating all tasks as the same. So for example, a lot of people will say I have 10 tasks to do in a day. They get done with 8 of them and they're excited because I got 8 of my 10 tasks done. I was productive today. However, they put off the most important tasks till later, or they don't do those. Those most important tasks then have to be figured out in the future where you're going to do those. So the first step you have to do if you've got 10 tasks to do today is find the 2, 3, or 4 that must be the absolute, and then give yourself forgiveness if you don't do the balance of the tasks because they weren't as important. So prioritizing your tasks mean you have to have a good plan on what are the important tasks. You have to process that or execute the ones that are important and maintain your self-control to focus on those ones that are important so that at the end of the day, whether you get done with all the tasks or not, you're not beating yourself up because you got the most important ones done. So the last element of task management is, and this could be controversial, I'm going to tell you, don't multitask. You can't. And you might be saying, Dave, you might be wrong. I will admit, because I had someone challenge me this before on a post that I did in LinkedIn, is that musicians, particularly like a singer and a player of an instrument, can multitask. And I'll grant that's probably a pretty good analogy of someone who can sing and play the guitar or another instrument at the same time. You might say that's multitasking. To get to that point, though, that person had to practice and practice and practice a lot. You just don't pick up a guitar and start to sing. You have to do single practice on the guitar, then single practice on the singing to combine the two. So while that's possible, and I say maybe that's a point of multitasking, when you apply it to a business sense, I'm going to tell you it's a bad use of your time to spend hours to figure out how you can simultaneously answer email while sitting in a meeting while your boss is giving a presentation. I don't think that's a good use of your time. And even if you got good at it, I don't think it's a good career move for you to do that. So general rule is don't multitask. Focus on one task at a time. complete it, and move on to the next. If you have a variety of tasks open at the same time, then recognize the fact that as you move from task to task, that task deserves your focus. You need to pull away and give 100% focus to the other one. But I'm just simply going to tell you, get multitasking out of your head. Don't do it. It's not worth the time, and it's a waste of your time. It's not a good planning method. It's not a good process method, and you're not going to be able to control it. So whether you agree or disagree on that one, you can challenge me back or say something in the questions. And by the way, please feel free, for those of you who are participating today, throw out a question if you want. I definitely want to, at the end, try to answer any questions that I can related to this. So summarizing tasks for you. 3 areas: maintain a task list, prioritize that list, and don't multitask. Again, weaving in this idea of the right planning to maintain and prioritize the list, the right process to execute that list, and then to control yourself to be focused only doing the tasks that are absolutely necessary, and forgiving yourself for the secondary ones. All right, so we've gone through 2. We've gone through planning and tasks. I do want to remind everybody that I'm going to be giving away, not giving away, but you have the opportunity to get the free time management analysis tool that I will put in the comments here. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and do that right now, if I can get this correct. I'm going to paste the link here in the comments. And basically, you can take this evaluation for free and be able to get the full report. If you end up and you forget to type in the promo code, you'll still get a summary report. You just won't get the full report. But it all ties back to the fundamentals, and I want to have you get an opportunity so you can compare what you've heard today to maybe what you feel individually. All right, so let's go ahead and move to the 3rd area, and this is really the most important area, and that is focus. People can plan well, they can do their task management well, and they can do some of the other elements, but focus is my challenge in time management. It's what I have the hardest area staying focused on, if you want to say. And so that's something that we all need to pay attention to, because it becomes the basically gateway for us to be able to do the other elements of time management well, and the other fundamentals. So let's go ahead and look at the first one, and that's procrastination. Procrastination in and of itself is the single biggest time management section that everyone struggles with who has taken the time management analysis. And we've had hundreds take the TMA. And so procrastination usually revolves around the upfront planning of the planning process and control. Planning upfront means is you probably want to do too much in one particular project or task. And as you get going into it, you become frustrated because you're kind of like, where do I go from here? And so the idea is when you find yourself procrastinating on a particular item or area, you need to stop and break that up into smaller chunks. Take that procrastination element and go ahead and make a task, prioritize a task list off of that. So you can begin to make progress on that overall area. And you'll find once you get going and break the elements down, procrastination is not as much of an issue. But I deal with procrastination a lot too. And I usually have to find that I have to simplify what I'm asking myself to do. So again, usually starts at the planning, you get messed up at the process, and then you lose control because you keep pushing off the item because you don't want to do it. So procrastination is the first section of focused time management. The second area is motivation. And in the time management analysis, a lot of people do express positive motivation, which I think is great. And that's really what this element is you're ready to get up out of bed and hit the ground running when the day starts, or you're motivated to complete that particular activity. If you lack that motivation, you do then lack a lot of energy to do the tactics of what it needs to do. So this one's a little bit harder to do the planning process and control on, because obviously it's hard to be planned to be motivated. The idea, though, is you need to be self-aware of your motivation. So that's kind of the planning. And then the process is to ensure, as you're executing your fundamentals of time management, you're positively motivated to complete that particular activity or item. And if you're not, you need to step back and self-evaluate. And then you can control your motivation. You don't have to be angry or frustrated. You can take steps through the fundamental process to alleviate any doubt, frustration, or whatever, to put yourself in the right motivation to move forward. So motivation is a little less structured, but it is definitely something that needs to be part of your fundamentals and your focus as it relates to time management. The next element in focus is the ability to say no. Now, some of you might look at this, because even myself, before I owned my own business, it's kind of hard if your boss comes up to you and says, Dave, I need you to do this. And you turn around and say, nope, I got other stuff planned. I am not going to do that. So saying no, let me speak a little bit more broadly to that. The planning element of saying no is when someone asks something of you, you plan to come up with alternatives. So it's not a direct no. It's more of, wow, thank you. I appreciate you need me to do that. I'm in the middle of something right now. Can we schedule this later? I'm free 2 hours from now. So the planning element to that is to be able to be ready with alternatives for someone that you help meet their need on your time frame. So the process part of it is having the courage to do that. And again, even with your boss, that could be challenging. So be mindful of that. And then the control aspect is, again, the courage aspect of being able to say no to somebody. So be mindful of that, okay? And saying no is not hard, mean, nasty no. It's more a no, but here's some alternatives. So get used to, particularly if you're working on something that you need some intensive, dedicated time with, that you have planned alternatives to tell people in case someone needs your time. Another element of focus, and this is, for me, one of my personal challenges, is distractions. And distractions are so easy for me. Emails or whatever, here's my phone. This is a major issue of my distractions. LinkedIn for me is a distraction. Distractions are internal based. And what I mean by that is it is a lack of your willpower that allows you to be distracted by other things, other people, other things, that events, and that's around you. So distractions look at as it's internal. How do I control my internal reactions to potentially outside things around me? So distractions, again, I am so guilty of it. It's something I have to really manage and work through. Then the next element is interruptions. You might be saying, what's the difference between a distraction and an interruption? Well, interruptions are external. So again, where we said distractions, in essence, were internal based. It's my lack of the ability to focus on me and staying true to what I need to work on, versus interruptions come from the outside. Someone walks into your office while you're doing something. So a customer interrupts you and says, I need you now. The boss comes in and says, hey, this just got dumped on my lap, so I'm dumping it on your lap. Interruptions are outside areas. And that goes back to the ability to say no. There's some parallel to this, but you need to have a plan on how to handle those interruptions, whether it's to negotiate protected time with your boss to say, hey, listen, I need to work on this project you've asked me to do during 2 to 4 p.m. today. Hey, give me that opportunity. And negotiate with others, with team members, to say, I've got something really important to work on, so please, can you wait till 4 o'clock if you need me? So it's about negotiating that time up front. But those are anticipating what might come your way. So again, distractions, internal, interruptions. It's all about, again, tying back to the definition of planning for those interruptions, having a process to address those interruptions, and being firm where you can on controlling your time related to that. All right, and then the last one in this particular element is talking too much. And what I mean by this is, this is an internal based. A lot of times when we struggle with our time management and we struggle with our focus, we want to talk it out a lot with people. And there's a book that I read, author's name is Tony Geary, and he had a statement of production before perfection. So usually talking too much is you're apprehensive of starting a particular project or task, and you want it perfect just before it starts. And I would tell you at that point, you need to just stop the talk and start the project and figure it out as you go along. Because again, tied back to the process, the planning, and the control, the idea is that if you're talking too much, just go with the plan you have, execute the process, control what's happening, and adjust those 3 elements as you need to. And so again, talking is usually a sign and indication that you're apprehensive about moving forward. And that again could be tied to procrastination as well. So focus, the biggest important aspect of the fundamentals of time management, the broadest element. Procrastination, motivation, saying no, but with alternatives, distractions, interruptions, and talking too much. All of these are very, very important to be able to give you a fundamental focus on your time management, of planning these well, having a process or execution related around that, and then being able to control your time, control how things happen through that particular element. So we are done with the biggest element of those. Terrence, you brought up a great point. He says maybe there may be some of us that roles that involve multitasking. Sometimes it's not an option not to multitask. So I would say in some areas, like a chef is another example of somebody who might be multitasking. Terrence, hopefully you'll maybe go along with this. I don't think it's so much multitasking as it is what I would term microtasking. It is the ability to fully focus your shift from one task to another very quickly. And I look at like a chef like that who's preparing a meal. They might have the hors d'oeuvres working over here, starting on the main course and things like that. And they've got a variety of things that are happening. But I really feel in that case, they're jumping from one task fully to another. They have just had so much practice and so much time invested being able to do it. They do it well. So hopefully maybe you can buy into that. And maybe it's more about microtasking than multitasking, but I do agree with you. But there are definitely some times when you have more than one thing open because it's the nature of what your job is. So thank you so much for that. Mohammed, thank you so much for joining from Nigeria. We appreciate that. Sarda, to reach our goal, we have to move step by step. I totally agree with that. Thank you so much for that comment. It's about a series of small steps. That's why project management is a series of smaller steps that gives you the opportunity to complete that project. So again, appreciate so much all of you who are joining with us. Kate, thank you very much. Thank you, Terrence. I appreciate that affirmation as well. The delivery of that note is so important. And Ahmed, thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you joining. So we're going to move on to the next element on the or area of the fundamentals of time management, and that's organization or being organized. And the first element of that is simply finishing. And what do I mean by that? So we talked about earlier in planning about completing your tasks. Getting assignments done, completing assignments. So what's the difference between completing assignments and finishing? So as we talked about completing assignments, that was more external based. That's either you having to do something for somebody else, you being assigned something from someone else to complete. Finishing goes back to like distractions, where it's an internal based element. It is your will that says, I am going to, once I start this, finish it. And you're going to dedicate to finishing it. And so again, as you tie back to the process, the planning, process, and control, finishing says that when I'm going to plan to do this, the process is to make sure I get it done, and the control says I am going to finish that particular activity. Is it relates back to organization. If you start a bunch of stuff and don't finish it, I'm going to tell you, you're going to have a hard time keeping things organized, both on those things that you have to do and the other incoming things that are going to come and affect your ability to manage your time well. All right, the other element is, you probably could say, using a calendar, I could have started off with this, because this is the foundational tool of time management. It really is. Having a task list is another, but really it all begins with the use of a calendar in some way or form. And the amazing thing is, if you have Google, if Google's your platform to use, whether your personal account or whatever, Google has a great calendar tool with a task element tied to it. Outlook, if you use Microsoft, has the same thing. There's a bunch of software platforms out there that you can get for free that have limited access that allow you to. But I can tell you right now, if you're not using a calendar, shame on you. Use a calendar. It is the basis for where you start your fundamentals. And it's a basis for your organization, because you're organizing your time by a calendar. That's its purpose, is to help you understand, and you can even prioritize through the use of a calendar. So again, be mindful that use a calendar in a proactive sense. Don't use it reactively. So many of my clients, when I say, show me your calendar, it's populated by a series of meetings that are assigned to them by somebody else with gaps. And those gaps are blank. And I'm like, well, what are you doing in those gaps? Well, I'm going to try to work on No, fill your calendar up with the empty spaces that you're not having meetings, with the tasks that you need to apply. Put that time out there, so it's on your calendar, that you're reminded to say, the next 2 hours, I'm going to be working on this particular thing. Now, again, if it's very important, negotiate that protected time with either your boss or teammates so they understand you're working on it. But you should have a full calendar, and I'm going to tell you, it should be planned 2 weeks out. Every 2 weeks, it should be full. It's going to change. Mine does all the time. But at least you've thought about that plan and the process and the control. So a calendar is really, really important. And then there's this general sense of just being organized. And what do I mean by that? So I know people who, when you walk in there into their workspace, I'm kind of a neat space and place guy. You probably figured that out from watching right now. The natural inclination to me, if you were to look at my open desk space, it's clear. What I do recognize is that there's very productive people whose desks are a mess. I'm going to tell you, I would prefer that, and I coach my clients that everything should be organized with a neat space and place. However, if that's not how you operate and you're like, I really can't do that, then at least know where you need to find stuff. So, I've challenged people who are, quote, disorganized, and as long as they can find what they're looking for in amongst the mess that they have, then that's a system that works for them. But generally, I'd ask you, think about this picture and think about how everything's readily accessible and available to get to. And that's what general organization is about. So, under those key areas and under those items of organization, there's the three elements of finishing, using a calendar, and being organized, all tied back to there's a planning element of finishing. There's definitely a planning element of using the calendar. There's a continuous planning element of being organized. The process you use in finishing relates back to that particular activity. The process you use by a calendar, my suggestion is that you plan 2 weeks out and plan every hour. And then the general sense of being organized, whether it is clearly putting things where they need to be, that's neat and orderly, or a messy, organized system, you have to be able to gain access to what you need when you need without having to waste time, because that takes away from your control. So there's organization for you. All right. The last element or the last area, or a priority category of the fundamentals of time management is personal care. Personal care, I'm going to say, I'm not a doctor. You probably already figured that out. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist. However, personal care is an important element of your time management. And there's 3 areas that personal care I'd ask you to pay attention to as it relates to the fundamentals of time management. The first one is try to get 8 hours of sleep. Now, I'm sure some of you are going, Dave, you don't live the life I live. I've got kids, my spouse works, I've got 2 jobs. I'm just going, you're crazy. I can't get 8 hours of sleep. I understand that, and I get that. I actually don't get 8 hours of sleep myself. I try. Some nights I do, sometimes I don't. Part of that's my deal is my mind starts churning and I can't sleep, but get 8 hours of sleep. I'll give you 2 examples of really, billionaires, very successful business people. Jeff Bezos of Amazon, he's committed to 8 hours of sleep. He gets it and it's consistent, and has a very, very solid time management regimen. Elon Musk, another billionaire, he gets 6 hours of sleep. He works 80 to 100 hours a week. I would not recommend his time management program, only because unless you have the drive and determination and you want to. He's a very successful person because of what he does, but he gets 6 hours of sleep. So if you look at this 8 hours of sleep and say, that's not for me, strive for 6, because it's not me telling you to, quote, waste time sleeping. Sleep time is a recharging time for your body. It gives you more energy and more focus during the day to be more productive in your time management. So please start with 6 if you're not getting at 6 and work to try to get 8. You're going to find the other 2/3 of the day, you're going to get more done. You don't need to carve into that sleep time. The second aspect to personal care is taking 1 break in the day, at least 1. This is independent of a lunch break. And again, I know that there's a diverse area out there of people who have different types of jobs that maybe it's a little bit difficult to do this. But I really highly encourage the 1 break a day, independent of a lunch break. And that break means you get out of the environment you're in. Again, going back to the social media, I don't consider a break is you stop, you work at your desk, and then you get, I'm going to check social media. That's not a break. A break is getting up from the physical space that you're in and going to someplace else and doing that. And breaking the environment. It's great for the brain. It helps reset so that when you come back to your desk and re-engage in the particular project, task, activity that you're doing, that your brain has reset itself and is ready to engage. Cal Newport has a book called Deep Work, where he talks about this particular aspect, and the breaks for him bring in some very important ability to focus. So really, one break in the day, 2 breaks or so, actually adds your ability to be more focused and energetic during your workday. Then the last element is regular exercise. And what do I mean by this? Well, it varies between the individual, but the Mayo Clinic, it's a hospital network here, particularly where I live in Florida. The Mayo Clinic talks about 30 minutes a day. And in that 30 minutes, it needs to be motion-based, and hopefully it also is heart rate-based. So your body has motion, and you have some level of increased heart rate. The increased heart rate elements, again, I'm not a doctor, so I'm dispensing advice from other people, but the increased heart rate helps train your heart for the times when you're stressful. So when stress comes in and your elevated heart rate happens, it helps, exercise helps teach your heart to level itself down when the stress goes. So I do between 3.5 and a 4 mile walk a day, and then do some cardio interspersed during the week when I can to get that heart rate level raised up. So personal care. Plan to get 8 hours of sleep, if not 6. Please do that. It's good for your body. Work out how you can take 1 break a day, removing yourself from the work area that you're at. So it gives your brain a chance to reset itself and be exposed to something different. And then do regular exercise. It's really important there. All of these necessarily don't have a direct tie to, quote, time management activities. But this aspect of time management, this fundamental, brings more energy, drive, determination, and focus to the other 4. So it's very important that you address that and look at time management, the physical, the personal care of time management as an element of what you do. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Terrence, organization is also the key. Well, Terrence, this will be on YouTube. So if you want to forward this, if you think if it's acceptable to do that, please feel free to forward them the link and do that. And you know, micromanagement is a key. I have been so guilty of micromanagement in the past. And if the fundamentals of time management are taught to both upper management and lower management, that creates trust. Then that minimizes micromanagement because the manager is confident that the team knows what they're doing. So I appreciate the share there. Thank you. Yes, 6 hours at least. Again, I'd like to have see everybody get 8, but I'm not guilty of getting 8 all the time either. But it's a goal I'm striving to do. All right, so we now are looking at the 5 areas we've talked about: our planning, tasks, focus, organization, and personal care. All tied back to the element, again, the definition of time management. If I can have you take away anything from this particular discussion, it's planning, process, and control. So in each one of these elements, what are you doing to plan, have a process, and control? Again, under planning, there were the 5 areas there related to what we need to do, of personal goals, planning, on time and being prepared for meetings and doing assignments. Tasks management is having a list, prioritizing that, and don't multitask. Focus is procrastination, overcoming that, being motivated, positively motivated. Stop talking, don't be distracted, lower the interruptions, and learn the art of saying no by asking questions. And then organization, finish, have a calendar that you use, and have a general sense of organization. And then finally, with personal care, you want to look at sleep, breaks, and exercise. So those are the 5 elements of time management. So the definition again of time management is the right planning along with the right process to control your productivity. This is so again, take away from that, as you start to engage your day and you look at what you're going to do, ask yourself, do I have the right plan set? Then is the right process ready to go? And then be mindful of how and what you're going to do to control your time. So I've had some great comments today, and I really, really appreciate that. Thank you all. You know, when you sit out here, sometimes you don't know what's happening as people watch, and so I really appreciate that. If there's any questions right now, I'd be happy to try to entertain some questions from anybody who has some general thoughts about time management, and be happy to do that. In the meantime, I want to come back to and talk a bit about the TMA and the time management analysis. So again, at Kairos Management Solutions, we offer a variety of tools. It's what we do. We want to benchmark to be able to help people identify their time management challenges. And those actually come through, the TMA is actually designed off of this particular slide. In these are 20 sections, and you answer 20 questions as it relates to your thoughts around time management. And so what I wanted to do today, so again, it's a 12-page assessment, provides a deep examination of each individual's time, and it's done with 20 statements. From that, you receive a report that basically comes back to you, breaking down each one of those particular areas and gives you an evaluation of where you stand on those 5 categories and 20 sections. And so, as I mentioned at the beginning, and I did post up in the links, and I'll do it again afterwards, is I want to offer you, for those of you who have stuck with me, a free report, a free full report. So all you have to do is, the link in the comments is go to the website, click through, answer the 20 scenarios, and I'll send you the full report free. All you have to do is, on the promo code at the end, just type in LinkedIn. And from that, then I'll get it to you within 48 hours. If you forget to put the LinkedIn promo code in there, don't worry, I'll send you a summary report. And we'll go, and I'll send it to you. And then if when you get the summary report, say, hey, I participated in the LinkedIn session, I'll send you the full report back. Again, I just want to have this opportunity. If you sat through this is a way for you to tie back this particular presentation. So, I really like that. The 8 hours of sleep, put ourselves in the alpha waves. Saranda, thank you very much. That's a great add on to that. Margarita, thank you so much. I appreciate your time and attention also through this. Any other questions or thoughts? anybody needs to do, again, I appreciate this time. You've helped me. I have to give this workshop twice next week to a couple of different groups. And so this gave me the opportunity to practice it through and kind of test my time. But I appreciate everybody. Have a wonderful weekend. For those of you in the United States, we have a Labor Day holiday. I believe India also has a festival going on right now. So take the time when you can to have downtime to be able to recharge yourself so you can hit the fundamentals of time management really, really directly. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. Have a great, great day.